the bill got through the House's Speaker, Mike Johnson. Speaker Johnson, congratulations. Before we get to how you got this done, the political criticism of the bill, and I know you're hearing this, is that voters won't feel the tax cuts because that's an extension of what they're already accustomed to, but they will feel the Medicaid and the food stamp cuts. You would say what to that?
No, I would say that's nonsense. We are basically enacted in this agenda what we did in the first 2 years of the Trump administration, but this time we did it on steroids. You remember, after that first 2 years, we brought about the greatest economy in the history of the world because we cut taxes and cut regulations. We did that again, we extended it, but we added all sorts of other features, pro-growth policies to really have jet fuel to the U.S. economy. And everyone will be experiencing that before the midterms, Raymond. That's what's so important.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I have to get to this. President Trump just posted about you on Truth Social moments ago. You ready? He has great strength and wisdom and will go down as one of the most successful speakers in the House history, maybe even the best of them all. Thank you, Mike. Okay, tell me, who was the hardest to convince to support this bill, Mr. Speaker? And tell me about what the press described as the conga line running through the Oval Office. How important was the president and the VP's efforts here?
Well, let me just say first, we have the commander-in-chief who is truly in command. He has brought America back. It is peace through strength, and he exerts that strength in every way he can to help advance the agenda and advance the best interests of the American people. And that certainly extended to what happened in the Congress. I mean, he was directly engaged, involved. He knows the issues. He called me multiple times through the process over the last several days and said, put me on the phone with anybody you need. He also brought in small groups of members, that conga line, to the White House and visited with them, and that was very effective. So he's one of the greatest advocates, and it's been a great partnership to work. And it's what a unique thing, and what a special thing it is to have unified government, where you have Republicans in charge of the White House, the Senate, and the House. We're using it effectively, and we're going to deliver for the American people, Raymond.
Who particularly, is there anybody you had to call in the big dog to help push over the edge?
Well, you know, I had several subgroups of members who were concerned about different things. You know, we have a very diverse caucus. They're all conservative Republicans, but they come from all over the country, and they represent very different districts. So different issues were of bigger interest, more or less to different people. So it's a long, deliberative process. Look, I know all these members so well. I love each of them. I know what they bring to the table. And the idea is to get the most conservative product we can that helps the most American people. We achieved that here, and we're really proud of everything that's in this bill.
I know members of that Freedom Caucus were very concerned that this would balloon the debt. They were looking for more cuts. What promises did you make to them, and when might those cuts become apparent? Will that be done in subsequent legislation, in rescission? When would you do that?
Well, first of all, it's important to point out, not only would it have the biggest tax cut in U.S. history that we just voted on today and enacted into law, we also had the largest savings that's ever been achieved by Congress in its history, $1.6 trillion. Now, is that enough? No, it doesn't satisfy the Freedom Caucus or me. We're all conservatives in this, and we understand we got to get America back on the right fiscal trajectory. So this is the first of a 5-step process to get us back to fiscal stability. The reconciliation bill today was a big, giant leap forward, but we're going to do this again. We're going to have a second reconciliation package in the fall and a third one in the spring of next year for the next 2 fiscal years. And we're going to have rescissions packages. The White House is sending us collections of items to claw back the spending that was wasted in fraud, waste, and abuse, and we're going to appropriate at lower levels. The Republican Party is the party to get us back to fiscal responsibility. We can't do it overnight, though, Raymond. It took us a while to get in this situation, but we are on the right track, and the president is committed to it as well.
Mr. Speaker, Joe Biden turned out today. He tweeted his response to the passage of the bill. He called it reckless and cruel. It closes rural hospitals and cuts food assistance for our veterans and seniors. It jacks up energy bills, and it could trigger deep cuts to Medicaid, or Medicare rather, while driving up the deficit by $4 trillion. All of this to give a massive tax breaks to billionaires. Working people deserve better, the former president said. Your response, Mr. Speaker?
Those talking points are older and tireder than Joe Biden himself. None of us believe he actually wrote that. Some staffer did, but they're using talking points distributed by the DNC, the Democratic Party, and they're blatantly false. We can demonstrate that this bill is going to be better for everyone. What we did in Medicaid is strengthen the program, strengthen that safety net so that it is available for the people that need it most, and that's the disabled, the elderly, young pregnant women, for example. We're going to make young, able-bodied men who are able to work work. We put work requirements in. That is going to eliminate a lot of the abuse in the program, and it's going to preserve those things for the people that really actually need it. Work requirements, by the way, Raymond, is about a 87% issue in public opinion polling because everybody understands that's common sense.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're lifting the tax burden on overtime, on car payments, on tips, that is a huge relief for working people. I mean, those are the really working people of America and the backbone of the country. Mr. Speaker, before I let you go, there were those doomsayers just a week ago who said, you know, Speaker Johnson will never be able to pull this thing off. This could be the end of his ride. How are you feeling tonight?
Well, they've written my eulogy about 10 times, but I say ye of little faith. Sometimes it's good to be underestimated, Raymond, but we're going to continue to deliver. This team's united. The Republican Party is on a roll, and President Trump is winning. Every time he turns around, there's more of that to come. Did
Hakeem Jeffries do anything today? What was that about, that 8.5-hour intermission?
He embarrassed his party, frankly, and they really don't have anything to run on. They have nothing to argue. There's no principle, policy, or platform they can stand on right now, and they don't have a leader. It was performance art. And what Republicans are doing is delivering results, not performances. I think the contrast was clear for the American people, and we're delighted to have that on the world stage.
Mr. Speaker, happy Independence Day to you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.